Hey, what is up, everyone? I'm Axel, and I'm here to talk about Elden Ring, and I'll give you my honest review. I'm not gonna do an edited video, I don't know, maybe I'll edit it a little bit, but I just don't have the motivation to really work on streaming or making videos. But I did say that I was gonna do this, so here I am. So, okay, so let me get this straight to the point. Um, we can normally when I play a game, when I am gonna review a game, so to speak, I split it in several parts. One is the most important one, which is the gameplay. Like how good it feels, how rewarding it is, how good it is overall. Okay. Second is the game progression. Okay. I'm always going for the game stuff first. Then you have story, world. For me, those go hand to hand. Then you have, well, I guess before that you have performance, but yeah, it's whatever. And then, like for me, like if the performance is shit, then it's just not worth reviewing, right? It's whatever. Um, and then lastly, you have graphics and all that stuff, right? So let's go from the back end, from the least important to the most important. Graphics wise, Elden Ring is really good. Like, I have no complaints about it. I know that the performance wasn't that great on PC, but I'm gonna review just the PS5 version. Play both the PS4 version on PS5 and the PS5 version. So I started with the PS4 version because they were saying that it ran better, but there were some issues with loading. Like it's a bit too long. It's not like a super long, but when you compare to the PS5 version, then it makes you lose a lot of time. So I prefer to just go to the PS5 version. It loses a little bit of performance, like some frame drops a little bit, but nothing too big, nothing too bad. I mean, it's good. So yeah, but graphics wise, it's good. I have no complaints there. Um, then you have the world and the story. I think it's also really good. I guess it's like, I mean, no, the story itself, more like the lore, I guess, is really good. Um, and the world, especially, is really well made. Although, in my opinion, it's too big for this kind of game. It just, I don't know. Sometimes it just felt, or many times it felt too long or too like overboard with the size of everything. Like, you were just wandering around a lot, and for this kind of game, where you get punished for dying, you lose your experience. Like, maybe you go to a place where you shouldn't be, and then you die, and then you try to recover the experience, all that stuff. It's kind of big hassle, and then you kind of have to guess where you want to go. um in my opinion, in this case, in as an open world game, it's not nearly as good as Ghost of Tsushima because of this, because it just doesn't really fit that well. I'm not saying that it cannot fit, but the way it's done, I don't think it's the way that it should have been done, and it should have been done a little bit different. I won't get into the details because there's many options for that, but that's how I feel. um then let's see, like the progression of the game, which kind of goes hand to hand with this. Honestly, game progression felt slow. Like, I know you can beat this game like super fast if you know what you're doing, but as a first playthrough, when you want to, in an open world, normally you just want to go around the place, do as many things as possible. Um, Before I beat the game, I was like, what, 90 hours in, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. I don't remember. And then I kind of, at the 100 hour something mark, I already did everything that I wanted to do, and I just couldn't be bothered doing anything else because honestly, I just don't have the motivation. Uh, and this brings me to the last point. But before I do that, this ties back to the world. It is good to have a world to explore, but for this kind of game where your progress in one area can only be so fast, right? Like if you want to explore everything, you want to clear everything, can only be so fast. You know? It really drags down. It drags out a lot. So yeah. Yeah, and this brings me to the last point, like I was saying, the combat. If I had to say, yeah, I could describe it in one word, but I could have two options. You know, both of them are valid in my opinion. In terms of gameplay aspects, especially the combat, it's, you know, you could say it's outdated. It's an outdated system, or you could say it's outpaced. I'll get to that in a moment. So when you look at the games in the Souls series, right, from Demon Souls all the way to, you know, going from Dark Souls 2, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna skip Dark Souls 1 because I haven't played that one. I just, it never really called to me. DS2, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, all that stuff. Sekiro is also there, but for me it's a bit too different. It's honestly, barring Bloodborne, which is also more different, it's always been like pretty much the same thing. I think they improved quite a lot on Dark Souls 2. I know that the people are gonna say, "Oh, yeah, what are you saying?" Hear me out. Hear me out, because I'll get to that point in a moment. And then they kind of went backwards after Bloodborne. Like it makes sense because Bloodborne is not part of the Souls series, right? But at the same time, it felt like they were making a really good advancement in terms of like the system. It was more fast paced. It was more, you had more options and different kinds of approaches when with just one single weapon. Um, and then they went back to the Soul series with Dark Souls 3, and the speed went down a more, and it felt like the options were quite limiting, honestly, compared to Dark Souls 2. Surprisingly, the thing with Dark Souls 2 is that it allowed you to do some different things that you cannot do in other Souls games. With that, what I mean is that, for example, you were gonna do an light attack, you know, for the Souls cultists. I guess that's another one. Followed by a strong attack or R2 for the cultists. And you could actually get a speed up attack, or even like you could speed up the parry as well. You could have a parry on the weapon after the first attack, and it will be faster. You could also, they nerfed this, which I think that was the worst decision that I've made in the patches. Well, not the worst one because there was also the monastery scimitar, but whatever. But earlier in the patches, you could actually cancel the attacks after like the first, I don't know, 5 frames or a bit more. I don't know. I don't remember how it was exactly. And then later on, it was only cancelable right at the start. But you know, like on PvP, that was super good. Like the PvP on Dark Souls 2 had so much potential. It had some wonky shit. I'm not gonna deny that. And you know, a lot of the game was wrong. But in terms of like combat and options and making you able to actually do mix-ups, it was actually the best one in the series, even topping Bloodborne. Bloodborne was better on pretty much everything else though. But yeah, that was how it was. And this brings me to Elden Ring again. With Elden Ring, I could sum up that the combat system is basically Dark Souls 3 with a few more gimmicks. Jumping is good. I think it was a good addition. Crouching honestly, you could just wipe it from the game. It can be useful. I've used it, but honestly, I would prefer it if it wasn't there. Honestly, it's just more of a hassle than anything else. Particularly for me, because when I dodge, I tend to like kind of press the L3, so I had to switch the controls so I actually interact with L3, so I don't accidentally crouch instead of dodging. But yeah, honestly, like there's no actually good mix-up tech in the whole game. The speed of the combat for the player is the same as Dark Souls 3, pretty much. Your best option is to just spam strong Ashes of War, which is, not a great combat system, so to speak. But all in all, even then, I think the worst thing about the combat in Elden Ring is the fact that if you compare the progression of the combat in the series, from Demon Souls to Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, and also the same thing but for the bosses have improved way more. I'm talking bosses, but also the enemies, but especially the bosses. They have improved way more than the combat system of the game. Yeah, we have more gimmicks, but they're just they're just extra things that you can do, but they are not integrated in the system. It's like, for example, I would say if it was, I would say it would be integrated if it was like you can do a mix up with the weapon art, in the middle of the combo, for example. Just one example, okay? But the more obvious example, which I think is probably the least usable one, alongside with another one, but just stick with the attacks, is the lack of any kind of difference when you have like quick attack into strong attack, or light attack into heavy attack, whatever. You're just resetting the combo. You're just not doing anything. You're literally just waiting for the animation of the first attack to end, and then you start with the second one. The other way around, the same thing. And there's no benefit from like mixing up like just the moveset on the same weapon. You can do some mix-ups on other things, but you have to like just do some weird shit. But yeah, like the games that they have added are like Ashes of War is just basically like you just, depending on the weapon you can change it, but it's basically the same thing as the weapon art from Dark Souls 3. And the jump, which is good, but it's not like it was impossible to do in DS3. It was just different. It wasn't a dedicated jump, but it wasn't a super fucking amazing new thing. And then also the thing that I have not used actually, which is the block into counter. Honestly, I've barely seen it either. Like honestly, I don't see that much Twitch anymore. Like I go to Twitch not very often lately. But yeah, like those options are still not gonna bring the combat system up to the bosses level, right? And this wouldn't be a big issue if it wasn't because you also don't have anything else besides from rolling and jumping in terms of like dodging. You don't have a dash, and the way that the bosses have progress, where some bosses go like crazy fast and all that stuff, it's just not. I don't get it. Like you can dash, but that's just with a weapon art, or like Ash of War, whatever. You consuming FP or mana or whatever. So it's just fucking terrible. I literally only used it to get past like some parts with the swamps, which Miyazaki seems to have a fucking kink with swamps or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, it just doesn't match. It just doesn't match the progress of the bosses with the progress of the combat. Honestly, if you were to tell me like just ignore the graphics and just focus on the movement or combat system of the player, um, I think it would be passable on last gen, PS4 gen. But honestly, the system is from PS3. It's a PS3 system, combat system. Um, and even then, before on the PS2, there were better combat systems as well. But those are different games, so I'm not gonna take into account. I'm just focusing on the action RPG aspect. Um, all in all, apart from the past bosses, there were also like the complete opposite. The bosses are like, and then take a million years to fucking attack. It's just fucking stupid, honestly. But it's not only that. Like some, not some, like many of the movesets are actually very unnatural, and not unnatural in the way like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna make a feint and then I'm gonna attack you differently. No, they're actually doing weird moves that are like completely ignoring body mechanics. I'm not gonna talk about how inefficient the way the many of the moves in the game are, especially for the player, which is also very obvious. But I'm not gonna talk about that because people have already thought about that, and it's already very evidential for people who care. So I'm not gonna repeat myself with that. But yeah, it's a shame because if the combat system was up to date and had like an actual, you know, better option to dodge and some, some a little bit of mix-ups and combo modifiers, all that stuff, like just a little bit. If it wasn't because of that, because it doesn't have those, then I would gladly give it at least a 9 out of 10. But I cannot do that. Cannot do that. I think I'm being generous even by saying this, but I will give it an 8 out of 10. Okay. There's a lot of work put in the game, don't get me wrong. But it is really, from a gameplay design or combat design point of view, it's just outdated and kind of disappointing. They put a lot of work on the bosses, but not as much on the player, and that's like, not, no. Combat system is born from the player, and then the rest follows, not the other way around. That's how I see it. Oh yeah. Okay. So another reason why I think I'm being generous is because that's not really taking into account how just plain unfair some bosses are. Especially, if I were to give you a definition of what I mean by unfair, I think the best example I can give is, spoiler alert, on the final boss, the second phase, or the second boss of the final boss, whatever, there's an attack that is basically like a ball of magic. I think it's called like Elden stars or something like that. Whatever, doesn't matter. So that follows you around for like what it feels like over 20 seconds. I don't remember how long it takes, but it's way too long. Your stamina gets depleted before it runs out. It's just gonna destroy you. Like, there's the worst thing is that if you do not have a specific item, if you don't have a specific item to counter it, which I don't think I've ever found on my playthrough, then you're just gonna eat the damage and just hope that you're gonna survive. so fucking stupid, man. Like, there's literally no way besides killing it before he does that somehow, or just having that counter. Like, this is fucking ridiculous, man. So yeah, that's what I would call a shit boss design, or at least that move is like just fucking shitty from a action RPG gameplay design point. Anyways, I guess I'll say this: if I don't see any change of mind in terms of like the gameplay design or the combat design on the Souls games, like maybe they go back to the idea of Bloodborne and improve upon that. If they don't do something like that, or just take another direction and just make an actual good combat that is up to date to at least last gen's standards, man. Well, it would be better if it was like up to date with the standards. Unless they do that, I'm just gonna stop bothering getting like FromSoft games, man. Sekiro was good gameplay wise, but it disappointed me in other ways, like with the replayability. And this game just tired me out with just one single playthrough. I got tired. Granted, I'm also dealing with other stuff, so not. I don't have the biggest motivation right now, and I'm busy with other stuff. But again, like it doesn't do everything by itself, right? It's just if it was some other game, then I'll not have any issue with that. But yeah, with this, I'm gonna close the video, and I just want to remind you guys that right now I'm just not really feeling motivated to do much. We'll see what I do. Maybe I'll go back to Neo 2 speedruns, but I honestly I don't know. So right now my motivation is not there, and I kind of want to focus on finishing the studies first, or at least this year. I say that, but I'm probably not gonna focus that much. But yeah, I don't know. Like my mind is not really decided on anything, and if I am not decided on anything, then I'm just yeah not gonna do that. Anyways, if you find this video interesting or insightful or entertaining, or you liked it overall, and I'll see you guys some other time. Bye.